Hello, I'm Jay Allen from My TrueNORTH. Delighted to have you with us today on this webinar, specifically put on for accountants and bookkeepers and those who attended the TAG Conference 2021. Delightful conference, really grateful to Mark and the team for being able to invite me to be able to come and join them. And as you know, I shared on stage at that event, get big or go home. An insight, a brief insight, if nothing else. I could talk about that for weeks, to be honest with you, but a brief insight into what we've been doing over the last 7 years, not just as a business, but in in conjunction with me as a senior lecturer at UCLan University on their MBA entrepreneurship program, looking at what causes big businesses to fail and what lessons can we do to avoid that within our small business. I will be making use of a slide deck, and therefore I'll make sure that everyone has access to the slides after this webinar, and there will be a promotion towards the end of this with regards to an opportunity to be able to have a one-to-one conversation about how to implement this into your business and that for your clients. So hang around, I'll make sure that I try and get as much information as I possibly can over the next 55 minutes to ensure that you've got all of the information to hand that you can either utilize in your own right, or if you'd like us to be able to provide some further additional support to be able to have a further conversation about what that might look like for you in your practice. I've strongly recommend and advise you to be able to have pad and pen. I'm certainly not going to make this into some long sales pitch. There will be an invitation, like I say, for a phone call to discuss how best to be able to implement this if you're interested in doing so at the end. But other than that, this is all about being able to deliver some more value to the people that have chosen to come and join us. So sit back, enjoy. There's a Q&A opportunity within the webinar. If you've got any questions at all, simply type it into the questions and answers, and I will make sure that each and every one of those are answered before the end of this presentation. Likewise, if you're in the chat function and you want to be able to make comment, or if you see something of real relevance, please feel free to simply type away and share that so other people on the webinar can benefit from that also. Like I say, this is all about being able to help you as a practice, you in your practice, being able to implement some of the information that we've gathered over 7 years of research, and now somewhere in the region of 1.6 million cells on Excel spreadsheets, being able to correlate data, looking at what causes big businesses and how to grow big business into bigger businesses, and how to avoid some of the many pitfalls that we've seen along the way. As a very brief intro, and for those of you, just as a quick reminder of what we spoke about at the conference with regards to get big or go home. Whilst there are many people out there that offer this business success blueprint, and don't get me wrong, success does leave a number of clues. We've only got to be able to look at those to determine what are some of the most successful people in our industry and sector doing, and what could we learn from that. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a big difference between simply cut and paste and pinch somebody else's good ideas and work, and what I would like to call something far more ethical of swipe and deploy. How can we swipe the thoughts, the ideas, the considerations? How can we absorb that and then determine how best to implement that within our own business? How do we learn from others that are already successful in our industry? You've only got to look at the engraving around the very circumference of every single £2 coin, and it simply says, standing on the shoulder of giants. And for that, it means being able to learn from others, absorb from others, understand what it is that others have done, and then how can we replicate that, or at least imitate that within our own business to be able to start to see the same type of progression and stand on the shoulders of other people that have already achieved that to be able to accelerate our own growth. So there's lots to be said with regards to understanding that success leaves clues. However, what we've determined is rather than trying to have to replicate what everybody else is doing and almost become rather vanilla, trying to almost struggles to identify who we are as an individual business, the unique selling point, if we've subsequently become a replica of somebody else's business. What we want to be able to try and do is to support SME businesses, prevent them from failing. 20% of business owners in the UK every year are closed, the company door, company's house are struck off, the doors are closed, people are made redundant as a result of poor considerations or poor decision making. Unfortunately, businesses fail every year. And I was far more concerned about how do we prevent people who've taken that big risk, that big decision, the leap into being able to run their own business. How do we prevent them from risking failure and everything that they've invested in the business so they can stay in the game, so we can continue to be able to grow and drive forward? I certainly remember of my own experience that making 7 people redundant in the winter of 2008 was the most painful thing I've ever had to do in business. Knowing that people who I'd recruited and had put their faith in me for the promise of a job in my business, that subsequently, when one of our key clients subsequently went into receivership, as a direct result of that, we were being impacted, that determined that there was no longer employment for 7 people in my care. And I can't tell you that so many years later, it still impacts me with regards to the decisions I made that led to their downfall as a direct result. And I wanted to be able to prevent other SMEs from having that fear of being able to take on other employees, being able to grow the business through building out a big team. The fear of taking on a responsibility for somebody else's salary. I wanted to be able to help SME businesses be able to grow sustainably, sufficiently so that the decisions that we make are confident and moving forward and driving the business forward and creating careers, not jobs, for the people that we choose to employ and come into our fold. And for that, I wanted to be able to look at what causes failure, and how do we overcome that. So let's quickly do a screen share and make sure that the presentation is ready to deliver. And let's have a look at what's on offer.
I love entrepreneurs. We are a different breed of human. We have a different level of ambition and self-belief, and it drives us to do things others wouldn't and take risks, which sometimes puts us in a lonely place. When the going gets tough, we have a different level of grit. We have a growth mindset. We learn fast, we play to our strengths, and we compensate for our weaknesses. We see opportunity where others see nothing. We see possibility where others only see impossibility. We take actions to make dreams and visions a reality. We conjure courage where fear paralyzes others, or we feel the fear and do it anyway. Simply say screw it, push comfort zones and test our own limits. We lead, we manage, we solve problems, we add value, and we break the rules. We simply change the way the game is played, and throughout all, we inspire. We see the pain, the suffering and the waste of life that the rat race is, and we called it out. We dared to dream, and we said, do you know what? It's better to give it a go and fail than to never know. We don't live a life of regret. We don't sit around and wait for someone else to make our lives better. We go out there and take full responsibility for everything that happens to us. The good, the bad, the ugly, the stress, the success, the challenges, and the rewards. We don't fear failure. We fear waking up one day many years from now and wondering, what if? We make decisions, and we decide to live a life of meaning, fulfillment, and purpose. We dared to believe that we could make a dent in the universe and leave a legacy, become someone, an identity by design, a lifestyle by design, to live deliberately and on our terms. To spend a few years doing what most won't, so we can spend the rest of our lives doing what most can't. We are as brave as we are foolish, ambitious as we are discontent. We have a touch of genius with a splash of madness and an air of arrogance, with a cool, calm confidence. And yet for all of our good points, we are deep thinkers with a dark side. We have a secret. That any time we can still push the self-destruct button. What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm successful, but then lose it all? What will people think of me if I become richer or happier than them? Why do I deserve so much when so many live with so little? Sure, we have demons, every one of us. Head shit that we battle with. We could choose to leave it all behind, squash it and move on. But there's a strange comfort in dancing with it, inviting it in and wondering if you can stare it straight in the eye and win this time. but you don't. It never gives in. Is entrepreneurship a gift or a curse? Is it inevitable that we feel this way, or is it that which secretly drives us on? The pain of staying the same is simply more than the pain of change. Is this the dark before the dawn, the sign that change is coming when you need to step it up a gear? Surely, the uncertainty of tomorrow drives me forward to determine my own future. I'm not shackled by the constraints of employment or the establishment. I am an entrepreneur.
If you remember, I shared at the TAG conference that 80% of business owners are wrong about everything. And I genuinely believe that that is a great knowledge, a great statistic to be aware of, because it prevents us from being guided by other people, our local competition. It prevents us from being able to be impacted by local decisions. It helps us to understand that in order to be able to scale a business and to do so sustainably, we've got to be willing to stay in our own lane and to be able to have self-confidence in ourselves, as opposed to being influenced by the people around us who are probably 4 out of 5 of them getting it wrong and making it up as they go along. Like I say, everything that I'm going to share today is based on big data. We've studied and researched quite significantly the cause of over 150 national business failures, starting with Woolworths and walking all the way through to Toys R Us, and almost any business over the size of 30 million turnover between the collapse of Toys R Us and Woolworths. But then we've subsequently audited, we've subsequently surveyed more than 119,000 SME businesses in the last 7 years to understand as to how much of that relevance data, how much of it is impacting small businesses, micro businesses right now. The businesses that me and you are working with that we could perhaps help and support to be able to prevent growing broke. And what we found was the majority of them are doing the right stuff, but simply in the wrong order. So today I want to share with you a very brief reminder of the 3 and 7, which equals significant and sustainable success. That's what I want to be able to help achieve, and I want to help you to achieve for your clients also. It's not about success that grow broke. It's not about stack them high, sell them cheap, and then subsequently hope that no one comes chasing afterwards. But it's not just about sustainability. I don't necessarily mean that about environmental sustainability. I'm talking about something that we can implement and we know it's going to be sufficient to be able to create the foundations in which to grow a scaling business, the scale element of a business, and the replication element or the exit element, that we can put things in place that are going to stand the test of time to maintain sustainable success. So first of all, a quick reminder of the 3 problems that businesses face. As I shared at the conference, that 47% of business owners don't have an up-to-date business plan within the business. For me, that's the sat-nav that helps us to be able to determine the right routes to be able to grow our business. So as an accountancy practice, or as a bookkeeper, or someone working with the accountancy field, I strongly advocate that 1, we encourage people to have a business plan, or if you don't already offer that service, that perhaps you can either offer that service as a bolt-on or as a standalone, or partner with someone who helps people to be able to create existing business plans for the business. Now, don't get me wrong, I need to quickly be completely open, honest and transparent. There were 3 caveats when we found big businesses that didn't have a business plan. You might question as to whether Woolworths, 93 years old, 4 billion a year turnover, surely they had a business plan. Well, ironically, when we went through and used the subject access data request to be able to access all of the data that was used by Deloitte to be able to close Woolworths, we were shocked to find that the business plan in Woolworths was 11 years old. It hadn't been updated for the last 11 years. And if you think about the speed of growth in retail, how on earth can you not have a business plan that isn't up to date and constant, considering the current status of the high street? So a business plan that's 1, up to date, 2, that it's known throughout the business. It's not a business plan that's just known by the business owner or the senior leadership team, and everybody else in the business doesn't understand the impact of the decisions that they're making and the contribution that they're making towards the overall success of the business. So a business plan that's up to date, it's known within the business, obviously to the relevance of the people. You don't necessarily need to share financials and accounting stuff with your part-time Saturday worker, but elements of the business plan that people need to know in the business to help them understand as to how what they do every day contributes to the overall success of the business, and that it's being followed. That's the third caveat. We often found that where businesses had an up-to-date business plan, sometimes that there was a maverick in the ranks and was going off on a tangent and trying to be able to form a name for themselves or to go off and try something new. I call it shiny object syndrome, or SOS, which wasn't considered in the business plan. They were reactive rather than proactive. So a business plan that's up to date, known within the business, and followed throughout the business. The second most important one was what I call the people, system, process dichotomy. Businesses that don't do well in any environment, but particularly when we've had a challenging environment like we've had over the last 18 months, are people that put process and system, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but process and system above people. Where businesses were process and system driven and people simply had a functions to follow and follow the process, stick to the system, were the ones that struggled, particularly in a difficult environment. Ironically, because we never create processes and systems that are designed to be effective in a challenging environment like COVID and lockdown. Meanwhile, businesses that have done particularly well in such an environment are businesses that simply put people first. They've just removed and inverted the triangle and become a people-centric business, and understand that systems and processes need to be in place, but needs to be in place with the leniency to be able to support people. And if we become a people-centric business, both for our suppliers, our stakeholders, our clients, customers, and inquiries, then we've got the capacity to be able to ensure that the systems and processes in place are supporting the continued growth of the business. And 36% of businesses failed because they were simply process and system driven rather than people considered. And then finally, businesses that grow and grow and grow and then suddenly collapse. The fast growth businesses that perhaps look to the outside world that they're going to be the next big thing, and then ironically over a very short period of time almost drop off a cliff. A good example of that was Norton Motorcycles. Norton Motorcycles, if you're from the motorcycling fraternity, you'll know for 47 years were probably the Rolls Royce of hand-built motorcycles here in the UK, and that within 19 months of a change in direction, a change in ownership or change in management structure, they went from a growing, accelerated, fast growing and good, strong forward order book of clients through to bankruptcy in 19 months after 47 years of trading. And this is often because they haven't given considerations to the other elements of a business that are required when we scale. And for that, we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail. But 29% of businesses grew broke. They got to such an elevation, they accelerated so quickly that the systems and processes in the business simply weren't competent enough to be able to keep the business moving forward. And they stumbled and fell, they smashed through a glass ceiling, and they just disappeared off the face of the earth. And this is where our ADDAZERO methodology came about, to be able to help SME businesses understand the systems and processes and people required within a business in order to be able to hit the accelerator and just keep on going. So let's look at that in a little bit more detail. ADDAZERO methodology. There are a number of elements that are required for any business as it first starts out. And I'm sure that you will relate to many of these, both within your own business life cycle and that of the customers and clients to whom you serve. First of all, we've got to do some marketing. Now, just remember, marketing's job is to create awareness. Marketing's job is not to sell products and services. And so many people seem to be able to measure marketing against an ROI, and it doesn't exist. Marketing's job is to raise awareness and tell people who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and why you're a good match. Marketing and sales ought to be a hand in glove, because sales's job is to take that awareness, those inquiries, and convert them into sales. That sales's job is to take inquiries and convert them into cash. And then subsequently, any micro business has to have some form of operational function to be able to service that sale. We've got to be able to provide something of value for the funds to which we've received from the person. And most micro startups will start out with those three elements and start to generate some regular cash. They'll go from a side hustle into a proper employment. As the business continues to grow, there's the recognition of the needs to be able to manage finances, as opposed to hope that there's enough month left at the end of the money, or money left at the end of the month. That's better. But most businesses, that once they've got through the first stumbling blocks of starting up in business and receiving some income, now understand the needs to start to budget and to plan and to understand the need for finance. And it's probably where somebody like yourself, as either a bookkeeper, accountant, is first considered with regards to being able to help support the business moving forward. And then eventually, as the business continues to grow, to be able to recruit other people into the business, to be able to continue for the wheels to continue moving without us having to continue to do all the work ourselves. And ironically, the majority of SME businesses that we studied, over 119,000 over the last 7 years, that is the element of a normal, standard, traditional growing business. However, what we identified is that there are three missing elements that have to be given the same consideration and importance as these 5 elements if you want to be able to create a scalable business. And it looks like this. We've got to be able to have the mindset and the motivation of the business owner to be understand as to what it is that we're trying to achieve, and to align their goals and the personal goals with the business. We've got to have vision and values, building a good value statement, a mission statement, a culture to which other people want to be attracted. So we've got a team of people who want to be at work and understand the benefit of them being there. We've got to have the right strategy and structure, business structure. We've got to understand the different elements of the business, and whether we want to be a stack them high, sell them cheap, whether we want to be an e-commerce, whether we want to be able to be a bricks or clicks type business. We've got to be able to have the right business model and the structure within the business to support the goals and aspirations of what we're trying to achieve. It's not just marketing anymore. We've got to have management of our marketing, a systematic approach of being able to build and continues to generate inquiries, conversions, and raving fans, people that love who we are and what we do and start to become recommenders and referrers in their own right. When it comes to money, it's not just about understanding budgeting, but it's also about understanding margins and maximizing profitability within the business and throughout the business, and having options and considerations to be able to ensure that everything that we do is profit first mentality, to understand that we've got to have a better understanding of the numbers within a business in order that we can start to play around with them and have some fun with them. I'm a firm believer that whilst that old adage, the business of business is business, it's actually simplified too much. I believe that the business of business, sorry, I'll try that again. The game of business is numbers, and how we play it is business. We've got to understand, and this is where you come into the fore, the key numbers in a business and how we can play and amend and tweak those in order to become more profitable more of the time to more of the people we're trying to attract. And that flicks over into the sales and negotiation, understanding pricing strategies and pricing philosophy, ensuring that we've got packages to be able to upsell and cross-sell and downsell, so we don't leave money on the table and we haven't done all of the marketing just for somebody else to pick up the sale at the end of the day. To be able to have a proper nurture process, to be able to help people understand not only why they need who you are and what you do, but why they need it from you. And then to understand customer and service delivery and accept that currently statistics from Gantt at the moment say that 72% of our existing customers are already making comparisons with us against others to determine as to whether they've made the right choice or whether they're going to move at the end of this contract. 72% of existing customers in every SME business are already making comparisons as to whether they made the right choice. They've got buyer's remorse. They're starting to make considerations as to whether they should move next time, try somebody else, try something new. And that's often down to the fact that we haven't got a nurture process to look after our existing customers well enough to remain front of mind in all of the considerations that they make, to show that we are of service to them, simply not selling something to them. And then 8, how to build a winning team, how to be able to, instead of creating jobs for people, to be able to create a club where people want to be, understand the benefits of being, and how to recruit what I consider superheroes to be able to continue to grow and accelerate the business moving forward beyond your involvement in it. So we can accelerate the thoughts and ideas and considerations of what the business is capable of, and we're carried along the way. It's almost from the Jim Collins book, From Good to Great. It's not just about being able to get people on the right bus or sat in the right seat. It's saying, I'm heading from here in Warrington in Cheshire down to London. Who's with me? Oh, and by the way, when we get to London, let's just fill up. Shall we go to Milan next and eventually the moon? It's about being able to encourage other people to understand the growth of the business, of where we want to take it, but that's simply the first milestone as to where it's going to go next under the next level of leadership and management. So let's look at those in a little bit more with regards to the things that prevent that from happening in businesses. What we've identified from the audit and survey is that there are 7 key problems that business owners face when trying to be able to accelerate from growth to scale. And again, all of this is based on over 119,000 surveys from SME business owners. And then we've simply correlated the data and now presenting it back to you and other people like you to be able to demonstrate that these are the things that we need to be addressing with business owners in order to be able to help them overcome the hurdles which are preventing them currently from making the biggest progress within the business. These are delivered, the next few slides, in order of priority, in order of how frequently we found that this was the biggest hurdle in the business. So the first and the next slide that we're going to show is the biggest problem that business owners face. And we'll do that down in order of priority of how frequently we identified that this was the culminating hurdle that people were facing in order to be able to scale and grow. And first of all, the most current and problematic thing in any SME business is the business owner. Quite simply, the business owner doesn't believe that they are actually capable of a bigger business. They are still thinking small. If you remember the slide that I shared from Warren Buffett, he said, most people think small and I automatically think big. And as a direct result of that, I'm at an added advantage. The majority of SME business owners continues to think about next week, next month. They might think about the next quarter, but so many business owners, the majority, actually the statistics from the study shows that 91% of business owners, it's actually a little bit over that, it's 91.3 I think it is at the moment. Like I say, every time that somebody completes our survey, it re-correlates the data so we can get the most up-to-date statistics to be able to share with people. And I'm sure that as of last week, it was about 91.2, 91.3% of business owners haven't given considerations to a 5-year or a 10-year or a 20-year plan for the business. Where are you going to be in the next decade? And it's only when we start having big ideas and where is the business, what has the business got the capacity of? How many business owners do you know and work with that knows the size of the sector that they operate within and the current fraction of that that they control within their own business? So many people don't benchmark them in their business against the industry to understand as to, are you barking up the wrong tree? Have you got the capacity? Is there the capacity within the industry to achieve what it is that you want to be able to achieve from it? What does market dominance look like? And what will we need to do differently in order to be able to achieve that? And it's these type of considerations to be able to offer to a business owner to start to get them to think differently. Let me put it quite clearly. in order to be able to achieve a different set of results, we have to have a different set of actions to create that different set of results. You've only got to look at Einstein, who said doing the same thing again and again and again, and then still expecting a different outcome is insanity. So in order to be able to get a different set of outcomes, we've got to be willing to put a different set of inputs. But that starts with a different level of thinking. It starts by being able to introduce business owners to a different concept to that they've previously given with regards to, am I going to earn enough money to be able to pay the staff on Saturday? We've got to move away from that type of consideration, because thinking small is keeping them small. And 91+% of business owners aren't thinking big enough in order to be able to keep their business moving forward. It's ironic that the business owner that says they wants to be able to grow a business hasn't got any understanding of exactly what requirements there are to be able to do so, and has the competency and confidence to be able to do so. The second is about your business. The second reason SME business owners don't achieve all the business is capable of is simply they haven't niched sufficiently and still attempting to be all things to all people. Now, don't get me wrong, we've heard so much about niching, about the importance of being able to niche, and yet so many people think, I can't possibly do that in the early days, in the startup phase. I've got to be available for whatever income's available. And it's completely the wrong strategy. While ever you are jack of all trades, you're not master of any. And it's only once we can segment ourselves from everybody else in the industry that we will start to rise above everybody else in the industry. We've got to be willing to be able to say, this is who we are, and this is what we do, and these are the people that we service well or best. This is what we are known for. And I'm not saying no to anybody else. I'm simply saying this is who we are. You've got to be willing to be able to stake your name and your reputation on saying, and we are professionals, we are specialists, we are the local favorite, we are the local expertise in looking after X. And so many businesses don't do it. And as a result, they end up selling 99p store content and trying to make £1 million by selling 1 million units. It's simply not going to happen. We've got to be willing to be able to have confidence, to be able to segment and segment and segment, to niche, almost super niche. There was a suggestion from Google Garage about 2 or 3 years ago now that said, until you have niched sufficiently that there are between 50 and 80,000 people worldwide that would want what you have to sell, you haven't niched enough. 50 to 80,000 people the world over. And until we've been able to niche sufficiently that we've got such a tight understanding of who is our ideal target client, we haven't done enough work to be able to understand who we are and who we serve the best. Trust me, there is enough work out there the world over for us all to be able to offer a niche to 50 to 80,000 people. But so many businesses don't do it. It's the second biggest reason as to why small businesses stay small, is that they haven't thought big enough and then niched sufficiently to be relevant to those people. The third most common reason why businesses stay small and don't grow and scale is quite simply they have little to no idea about who is their ideal target market. When I go to any network or conference, I often say to the business owner, so who's the ideal target client? Who are you looking to be able to speak to today? And invariably, they will reply, anybody who, anybody that. And you know, I'm 48 years old at the time of recording this today, and I have never been identified as an anybody. I've always been unique. I've always been individual. And ironically, so has everybody else. And yet so many business owners seem to think that they can sell snow to Eskimos. And trust me, Eskimos have got enough snow. We don't need to try and sell snow to Eskimos. They've got it in abundance. They probably want to sell you some. Although sadly, global warming, possibly not. We've got to have a far better understanding of who is our ideal target market. Not who do you want to sell to, who would you love to sell to? I often challenge people by saying, if you could only sell to one person for the rest of your life, who would it be and why? I'm not really quite sure. Well, I like so-and-so, and he does this, and he does that. Build a persona of your ideal target client audience, because until you do, you haven't got sufficient information in your arsenal to do what's required next. The third most popular reason why SME business owners don't achieve more is that they have no idea who their ideal target market is. And the fourth biggest problem is that they haven't got a clue how to market to them. Marketing's job is not to sell. Marketing's job is awareness, to raise awareness to the right people at the right time with the right offer that make the phone ring or the email address ping up and say, I'd be interested in some more information. That's marketing's job. And yet, if we try and put out this message to the masses, it doesn't resonate with anybody. And we can't understand why it's not build it and they shall come. Well, ironically, that might have worked in Field of Dreams, but it doesn't work in reality. The simple fact is that we have to have a message that resonates with the ideal target market. And in order to do that, we need to know who our ideal target market is and what do they need to see, hear, feel, smell, taste in order for us to be relevant. Don't get me wrong, there are 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and we are being bombarded all the time on this thing, a computer phone, with information. Ironically, it was Google themselves that said about 5 years ago now that 99.6% of all email traffic is spam. 99.6% of the stuff that comes into our inbox isn't relevant. People that have got our email address and just simply throw stuff at us in the hope that some of it sticks. You've got to create a message that resonates so much with your ideal target audience that it feels like you're speaking one-to-one. And yet the traditional majority of marketing efforts these days are what's called in the trade soulless communication. Soulless because it's soulless. It's throw it out there, stick it up to the wall. It's a shotgun approach to trying to kill a few leads to be able to attract some more people. We've got to understand how to become a sniper in our marketing in order to be able to have a message that resonates with the right person, that makes them pick up the phone and say, could I be a customer of yours? What would I need to do in order to be relevant and suitable? How do I become a customer of yours? They're the right questions to be generating, and they're the questions that are only going to be generated or start to receive if we've created a message that's so poignant to the right person that to them it's been sent directly to them, even if we've actually sent it to 150 other people just like them. It's only when we know our target audience that we can start to target our marketing so we can have a strategic market approach to attract, engage, and nurture ideal target clients, and to detract tire kickers and people that just waste their time. The fourth most popular reason why businesses don't scale and stay there is simply because they haven't got a good marketing strategy to attract the right people to the business. So the fifth is back to that systems and processes. The fifth most popular reason SME businesses don't get traction in scaling the business is they don't have the right systems and processes in place to sustainably enable scale. They buy things off the hoof. Oh, I need a bit of that, and I need one of those, and oh, we'll need one of these recently. We buy things as we need them without a strategic approach to, is this sustainable? Is this going to contribute towards the acceleration of the business? Have we got the right systems and processes? Are we using them in the right method, or are we all self-taught? Are we doing the right things in the right method in order to be able to gain the quickest traction? Businesses that do well, particularly in tough times, are the ones that ensure that systems and processes support the people in the business, and not that they have systems and processes that simply people have to follow. So we've got to be able to review and revise everything that you've done to date to say, is this still sustainable? Has it got the capacities to be able to take us to another zero on our turnover? Or is there a shelf life in what we've bought right now? Is it not fit for purpose for what we're trying to achieve? And to be able to constantly look at incremental upgrade of everything that we've got within the business to ensure that it has the capacity to deliver on what we're aiming to achieve and not what we've just achieved. To have lead indicators and not simply lag indicators. So let's move on to the sixth element, the sixth most popular reason why SME business owners fail to achieve the business's full potential is having the right people in the right place with the right roles and responsibilities. They tend to recruit from the bottom of the pile. How cheap can I pay to be able to get some cheap labour into the business? I'm going to be very organic and strategic with regards to exactly what I want them to do. There's a system and a process to follow, and it doesn't work that way. I'll never forget my first ever promotion in the military 100 million years ago now, and my regimental sergeant major took me onto one side and he said, Alan, let me give you one piece of advice. I said, yes sir, I'm listening intently. He said, now we've put the first stripe on your arm, you have the privilege of serving others. I said, hang on a minute, sir. I've now got some subordinates. I've now got a teams to manage. I need to be a manager. He said, manage them at your peril. Learns to lead them by being of service to them. And it took me quite a while to understand exactly what it meant. But thankfully, I quickly moved from a state of management to leadership, went on to get a master's in international business leadership and ethics in business, and understood that in actual fact, I need to be of service to mentors, to coach my team around me, for them to accelerate from the job that needed to be at the time to their full potential. I needed to be able to create careers for people instead of jobs. And my job was to be able to facilitate that and then to put the systems and processes and resources in place for them to become the best that they could be. And yet we don't do that in business. We don't do that in SME business. We often think, oh, I can't possibly afford X, I'll have to buy Y instead. Rubbish. If you want your business to grow, you've got to be able to afford people that you can't afford. You've got to be able to bring them into the business and then help them to understand the impact that they're going to have on the business that's going to enable them to be able to be affordable. If we want to be able to move from growth to scale, we have to start thinking bigger as opposed to holding back. And the team are the ones that are going to enable us to be able to accelerate the business beyond us working 168 hours a week. And then finally, the seventh most popular reason why good businesses fail is simply they don't have the right support. The other elements to a business, not the people on the payroll, but the support elements, the accountant, the lawyer, the PRHR consultant, the mentor and coach, the people that are going to be able to hold them to account, to be able to guide them, to encourage them, and to be able to enable them to be able to keep on the straight and narrow and grow them and the business. And the majority of people who are reactive to this and only calling out for help as and when they need it, usually at a last minute okay corral, as opposed to investing in the right people at the right time in order to be able to enable the business to continue to grow and accelerate and move beyond where it was already. If you remember, we don't know what we don't know. And yet it's only when we use that £2 coin analogy, standing on the shoulder of giants, that we can accelerate the speed and growth of the business. So what is the ADDAZERO Business Challenge and how can you enable it, one, into your own business, and how could you provide this to you and your clients? Well, first of all, I want to be able to share with you that it's an ethical and holistic approach to business scale up. And these aren't our words. This isn't from some marketing or PR agency. It's been recognized by both the Kaufman Foundation for Entrepreneurship in the US and Smith & Williamson Accountancy in London. It's been recognized by two huge organizations for being ethical and holistic in being able to provide the scale-up methodology required to be able to support SME businesses to be able to accelerate from growth to scale. And I'm really pleased to be able to share that most recently, it's been recognised by the International Authority for Professional Coaching and Mentoring as a level 6 qualification to be able to provide this in the way that we do. So I'm really quite excited to be able to share that we've got 3 large organisations, both US, UK and internationally, that recognise who we are and what we do, and the methodology that I'm trying to share with you today, that I want you to be party to, both in your own business and that of your clients. So let's very briefly skim through that, and then I'll take questions. So first of all, mindset and motivation. I talked at the very beginning about these 8 elements. So we've created a 9-step process aligning both the business owner and the business to the goals and aspirations of what the business owner wants to achieve and what the business has the capacities to be able to do. There's a 9-step process, and we'll teach each and every person through this process of what to do, when to do, how to do, in order to be able to achieve that within the business. We've subsequently moved on to vision, value, culture, and purpose. As you probably know, Simon Sinek started with Start With Why, the most popular and watched TED Talk ever, with something like 47.9 million views worldwide. And he talks about the importance of purpose. So we've developed a 13-step process to building a business culture that reflects both you and your mission, that we can attract the right people to do the right things in the business, that when we get to recruitment and team, that they buy into the right thing. And it's not just a job, it's about contributing towards a way of life for people. And we've got a 13-step process to be able to enable and support people to do just that. Strategy and structure. It's about being able to understand that it's simply not a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday culture anymore. We've got to have the capacity, whoever we are, and whatever service or product that we offer, to be 24/7 omnipresent, to be able to service people around the world. 30 years ago today, or 30 years ago this year, Tim Berners-Lee gifted the world the World Wide Web, making it possible for anyone to communicate with anybody else on the planet. And that simply means that you can communicate and contribute to global presence, but it also means that your local competition could be based on the other side of the world. Through the internet and connectivity and joint venture and partnership, you might be competing even where you are geographically based right now with a business that's headquartered and run from Uganda or Mumbai or India or Mombasa or China or Sri Lanka. Your local competition is global competition, because we all have the capacities to be able to plug into the internet and to be able to target your clients. So we have an 11-step process to establish the right business model for you based on what you're trying to achieve from the business and the priorities that you need to be able to put in the business in order to be able to achieve that in quick fashion. I often say to people, when do you want to retire and how much do you want to retire for? And I often hear these vague suggestions of, well, I'd like to retire 55 or 60, a few years before state retirement age. Okay, how much would you like to retire for? Do you know, if I had £1 for every time somebody told me £1 million times however many directors there are in the business, 3 directors, well, we'd like to sell for about £3 million. They've got no consideration as to what a £3 million business looks like, or what a £3 million sales value business looks like, and how to achieve it in the next X amount of years. So first of all, I have to work on an exercise on why £3 million and what would a business sales value of £3 million need to look like in order to be able to generate a £3 million sales value. We do that in our mergers and acquisitions program. And then subsequently, is that enough for you for the rest of the life? Is that what you need? Is £1 million? Ironically, if you put £1 million in a ISA account these days, not a stocks and shares ISA, just a normal traditional ISA, it's going to generate less than £35,000 a year in interest. Now, is £35,000 £1 million lifestyle? I would argue probably not. So we need to understand as to what are you trying to achieve, and is the business set up in such a way that it's going to be able to capable of achieving it? And what I often then say is, why don't we bring the retirement age forward by 10, 15, 20 years and say, if we can achieve it by then, would you retire early and enjoy the rest of your life like nobody else could, based on the fact that we're able to sell the business 20 years before you thought it was possible. We've got to change people's thinking if we're going to be able to get people a different set of results. So next, it's marketing management. It's about understanding that marketing is about awareness, not simply about measuring sales, but creating a 13-step process of a systematic way of turning window shoppers, and let's face it, the right people looking through our window, into raving fans that regularly purchase from us and recommend and refer us to other people. I'm really fortunate and grateful to be able to have an exceptional marketing consultant within the business that worked with us to be able to create this 13-step process. And I'm so excited that it delivers some exceptional results. We've seen some of our clients within 3 months quadruple their inquiry and the conversion rate as a direct result of applying the 13-step process that we provide within the ADDAZERO challenge. Money and margins, your forte. So what do we have to offer in this field? Well, an 11-step process to maximize opportunity and profitability throughout the business. I love profit first accountancy, and I'm a firm believer in being able to help people understand where the profits are within the business, the 7 key numbers in any business, 4 of which we need to accelerate and 3 in which we need to reduce in order to be able to accelerate the scale value within a business. Not just the growth value where all we're doing is we're increasing risk, but the scalability of profit against, or gross profit against net profit, and an 11-step process to be able to help people understand what to do, how to do, and what to measure in order to be able to make sure that they're doing it sustainably. Then we move into sales and negotiation. 10-step process, turning sales into a service through a proven serve, sell, close process. We spent about 2.5 years working with a sales consultant and being able to develop a process to be able to help people, instead of selling and the hard sell and the buy now and the scale and the scarcity elements of it, being able to help people understand how to be able to sell as a service that makes things the next logical step, helps people to understand the value that people provide and how to build a relationship with people that people say, how much? As opposed to, how much? Because you'll notice from the tonality, it's the same words and a completely different story there on after. We then look at service and delivery. And like I said, 72% of current customers are already struggling to be able to maintain the relationship with their client base. So we've got a 9-step process to be able to increase customer loyalty, lifetime value, and create a positive referral network. And then finally, the winning team aspect, a 12-step process to be able to help recruit, retain, and reward, I believe, a team of superheroes to be able to continue to grow you and your brand without you having to be the forefront and the key to the business, not enabling you to be suckered into the face of the business, but allow the business to grow beyond that of the original owner or founder. So before I finish the presentation and take questions, just wanted to be able to quickly finish with 2 last slides. First of all, we recognize that not every business needs all of the things that we have to offer. This isn't a buy it off the shelf and see how it fits. This has got to be delivered in such a manner that it complements where the business is already and just simply fills in the gaps, as opposed to telling people they've got to go back and start from afresh. So we deliver it at 3 different levels. First of all, foundation level for micros and startups, or those people who are looking to be able to cover the foundations, to tick off all of the lists to ensure that they've got a solid base on which to be able to move from growth to scale without either going or growing broke. As people complete through foundation, and it's either a tick box exercise or there's some work to do to be able to fill in the gaps, to be able to build the right foundations, they accelerate into Explorer. For established SME businesses now who have started to be able to grow with a small team, the additional things that are required to be able to not only accelerate the speed of the business, but to keep the foot on the gas and keep it accelerating forward. And then finally, to Summit, as the business grows to a larger, more significant company, looking to be able to either seek to replicate this. I'm not talking about a new office next door. I'm talking about taking the whole business model and perhaps growing into foreign markets. We've just supported 3 clients being able to move into both Asia and America and to grow their business to an international audience, or looking at exit planning and what does a retirement look like for the business that continues to move forward. And we have 3 different methods of being able to either sell out or sell in the business in order to be able to enable people to exit accordingly. So the final slide is, why does this meet all of the, why does any of this have any real relevance to you as an accountant bookkeeper within the TAG community? Well, we also deliver this in 3 different ways. It might be that you would like us to be able to come on board and support you in being able to embed the ADDAZERO methodology into your practice. So you could work with one of our scale Sherpas to help embed the ADDAZERO methodology into your practice, to be able to determine as to where are the current cracks that may prevent you at some stage in the future from being able to scale and grow your practice, and how can we support you in being able to plaster over those cracks in such a way that you have the scalability within your own business. It might be that you'd like us to work with you to become a professional introducer of the ADDAZERO methodology to your clients. We've been delivering ADDAZERO across the country now, and ironically it's the US, UAE, and a little bit of Europe, but ironically not so much, to your clients, and see them benefit from both the growth of their business and as a way of us being able to recognise the kind introduction and ongoing gratuity that's paid back to each and individual introducer for every single time or month that a client stays with us while we're embedding it. I'm a firm believer that if we're growing as a business, you ought to grow too, and therefore rather than a single one-off introduction fee, we like to be able to say that as the business continues to grow and we're unable to grow with them, that you ought to be part of that journey, and therefore we work with you to be able to provide the services to your clients. However, the most exciting thing I think is as you. Like I said, we've now registered it as a level 6 course, and it's licensed through the International Professional Training and Coaching and Mentoring Organisation, and we're able to be able to qualify you as a scale-up mentor for you to be able to deliver all of the content that's within as a program yourself through your practice to your clients. And there's 3 different methods in which you could apply the ADDAZERO, either individually or collectively or as a standalone, with our support and help to do so. So I hope that you've got something from us today. I just want to quickly finish with our mission statement and why it's so relevant to each and every one of you as an accountant in the room. We made it our mission 3 years ago now to support 1 million business owners to be able to significantly and sustainably scale up their businesses. We measure our success by being able to support every single client that we work with grow sufficiently to take on a minimum of 2 new members of staff. Because collectively, when we hit our target, we could eradicate unemployment in this country by providing more employment than there are unemployed people seeking work in the UK. And that's what we aim to achieve. And I'd love to be able to think that you might be on board to be able to help us support that by providing this to your clients also. Sincerely, thanks for watching. I'm going to end the slideshow, come out of slide share, and if you've got any questions, I'd be delighted to be able to take questions if you've got any. Just simply write them in the chat, or if you'd like to come off mute, I'll be glad to be able to take them.